So I'm proposing again that we reduce to $1.50 and then get all of the money back from UMass to our account and then allocate the money next semester.
Okay, so that passed. We will be excluding that from the Constitution.
Sally is handing around some reports that came out which summarized the first year of work. So we had a strategic planning committee that had student representatives, Sarah, Hannah, and we met all year. We had small group discussions, and from that emerged strategic directions. And as a result of the strategic directions, we put together some task forces. And I charged the task forces with coming up with some bold ideas to deal with some of the structural deficits that we're dealing with. So you all know that we don't have a sustainable model in higher education. It's just not just Mount Holyoke, but all institutions of higher education are facing the fact that we can't continue to raise tuition and have increasing discount rates where we provide more and more financial aid because we've raised tuition. So we're looking at a variety of mechanisms to deal with this. The task forces looked at curriculum to career, new markets, the academic core, and admission and retention. So that's where we are now. We received the task force reports. This is the beginning of a process now of engaging people in community conversations about where we should go and what we might recommend to the board at the end of this academic year in May.
There were over 100 specific recommendations. Now that I know that there are only 5 that you deeply care about, but there were just like over 100, and so there's a committee that's trying to make sense out of all this, and we're very much in the midst of trying to make sense out of all that, and we want to try to organize that into a shorter list that we can then talk with various parts of the community about.
So the question is an understanding about financial troubles, and have we thought about moving away from need blind? Our current position is that we're need sensitive. So a number of years ago we moved away from need blind, and that was a very controversial decision. Contained within these recommendations is a suggestion of gapping, which means that we wouldn't cover full financial need. So while we're need sensitive, when we do admit people, we cover full financial need. No, that doesn't mean that students don't have to work for a certain portion of the money that they contribute to the college. But that would be a significant change in terms of either increasing debt burden for some students or leaving a gap where there's no clear way of covering that. So we're talking about that in the context of our values. Many students feel an urgency to finish in a quicker amount of time, and we think that as a matter of good advising, you shouldn't take more than 18 credits a semester, that it's just not good in terms of the kind of education that we're hoping to deliver. And so one way to discourage that is by placing tuition fees above that level. And that is going to have a burden. It might have a disparate impact on people who are least likely to be able to pay. So we're mindful of that as well. But that's the reasoning.
How do the subcommittees on the task force reports and the student subcommittee decide to implement the recommendations that are within all the task force reports?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there'll be recommendations that are going to be vetted through all the constituencies. Some of that will be done through existing governance structures. So the Academic Priorities Committee, Planning and Budget, the Advisory Committee, and so the existing student committees and the staff council, each of these existing groups will look at proposals that are traditionally under their purview and make recommendations to the existing bodies. And then those recommendations will come to the college planning committee, to me, and then ultimately to the board.
So we really have 2 big kind of overall goals: to make Mount Holyoke better and to make it financially sustainable.
We do consider this issue in every strategic planning process for a variety of reasons. It's just best practice and to consider all possibilities. If we're looking 20, 30 years out from now, we have to consider the possibility that we might be under some legal mandate in the way that the military academies were to go co-ed. So how would we respond to that? What would be the financial implications? So they have been charged with solely looking at those costs and benefits. That's separate from the question of whether we should go co-ed, because that's a values question. I mean, if it were easy, it would have been solved already. If we're the only ones who think that a liberal arts education is valuable, then that's going to be a burden for you when you go out and get a job and you're competing with somebody who's had a pre-professional education, who's been on a career track. So we need to make arguments that resonate with those outside of the ivory towers. And so I think Nexus and Curriculum to Career is one way to do that. The last thing I would want is to diminish the value of liberal education. That's what I have spent my career devoted to.
To do everything you'd like to do financially, there are two ways to approach that. You can reduce the number of students on financial aid, or you can reduce the tuition, which forces students to be on financial aid. And there are a couple of colleges who are taking a huge risk right now and reducing their tuition quite substantially. And we are watching to see what happens with that. It could backfire. It could be really great.
I'm Liza. I'm representing the FP community. And I just wanted to say that it sounds to me that through all of these changes that may or may not happen, it sounds like you have still kept in mind the academic excellence in which this school was started. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And thanks again for your leadership. I really do appreciate it. Don't hesitate to contact us if you have questions or things come to mind. And I promise we will go around and have conversations with you and get broader impact. So thanks again.